Welcome to round two,
Oh,
the joy of missing out. Listen, I hope that everybody here is being intentional as you read this book. And I hope that you're being deliberate as you process through the workbook. Because if we are very lucky, and if we are very tenacious, the information contained within this book and the processes that we develop can change our lives, personally and professionally. Or we might fall into the norms, and if we fall into the norms, it'll change our life for a moment. Some moments last longer than other moments. I know that we've all been to countless workshops, retreats, self-improvement, personal growth, leadership. We've been to countless events, and almost always we leave jacked up. We're on fire. We can't wait to put all this new information into place. We can't wait. It's life-shattering. It's earth-shattering. Oh my God, I'm never going to be the same. Some moments last a day or few. Some moments a week or few. Some moments a month or few. But then all of a sudden we get slapped with that whirlwind called life, and we find ourselves falling back into old habits, falling back into the ways and the processes that we're comfortable with. Because let's face it, that new me and all that new processes and new information takes effort, energy, and time. And in the midst of life, I just don't have it to give. So I'm going to fall back on my old habit, and I'm going to fall back in my comfortable ways. And before we know it, we forgot all that stuff that had us so jacked up. In fact, Tanya talks in her book about developing new habits and how to rewire and rewrite old habits. So we want our moments to last longer each time. And I want you to think about, or I want to remind you, that Women in Motion is an organization of purpose, and we're an organization with purpose. With purpose. Oop, that might be. So I want to encourage everybody here to think, to speak, and to act with purpose. Tonight, we're going to continue our fireside chat, if you will, with Tammy Joyce. Tammy is a graduate of High Point University with a bachelor's degree in business administration. She has a double major in marketing and accounting, and she has minors in IT and religious studies, and recently received her license to be a pastor with the Wesleyan Church. Now, at the risk of stereotyping, I'm not going to utter the words overachiever, but if I read her bio, all of our eyes would glaze over. Not to worry, I'm not going to shortchange her. We'll get into all of that as we chat, but if you'd like to come and join us, Tammy, TJ, I'd love to share some conversation with you.
You made that sound way better than.
So have a seat and get comfortable.
Okay, well, I'm short, so let's slide up here. Oh. And by the way, thanks for the reminder about the book and the purpose. And
Exactly.
I agree, it's easy to go to workshops and
Exactly.
and listen, but not hear.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Or to quickly put it aside. Quickly put it aside. All right, I'd like to ask you, if you would, to share a few things with us from a personal perspective of your life. I'd like for you to share some things with us that have nothing to do with work, anything business related, or anything of that nature. Share something about who you are and what makes you who you are as an individual.
Okay, so I like to have fun. I love anything to do with water, boats and the lake. I love the lake or the beach. I'm a mom of now a 17-year-old, but if you call my phone, we were just discussing that it is a 5-year-old that answers the phone because I can't erase the message.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so it's still on there. I don't know when I'm going to erase it. She's 17, so I don't know.
How does she feel about that?
That's the same question I got. Yeah, she's ready for me to change it. She's ready for me to change it.
Yeah.
So, but no, I don't know when I'll do that. But so
Okay.
that's exciting stuff. Huh?
I know. I noticed on your bio that you are either a current member or a past member of about 10 community, religious, professional boards and organizations.
Yes.
So you clearly have a passion for your community and for people. So tell us a little bit about that.
Definitely a passion is community. And I was glad to see you guys are also doing some things with United Way, because I've been on the United Way board for Davidson County for probably, I'd hate to say how many years, but I've been working with them over 20-some years. So yeah, the community and and anything to do mission-wise in the community are very important and high up on my things that I think fulfill me and give me purpose.
Mm-hmm. Tanya talks a lot about finding your North Star, and it seems to me like part of your North Star is community-related.
It is. But I went to school for accounting, so I get niched into an accountant or a business person, which I am, and I'm naturally kind of good at that. And even as you said, I just went back to school and became licensed with the Wesleyan Church. And because I like people and I like ministry. But I'm not called to preach. I will not. I don't have a gift of words or anything. So I never felt God's calling for me to preach, but I feel His calling to help others, right, and do what I can do in the community. But so the first opportunity I get actually in ministry. I mean, we're all ministers. We all have purpose, and we all know we're all disciples. But my first position after receiving my license was at an executive pastor, which, I mean, I'm good at business, so it was okay, but I love people.
Right. So. All right, I'm going to take a question, a Jenny McDermott question. Being a graduate of High Point University, where all things are extraordinary, Jenny is part of the High Point University family as the Dean of School Communications, and she said she enjoys asking the question, tell us something that makes you completely ordinary. Thank you, Jenny.
I think I'm completely ordinary in a lot of areas, but I always want more. But yes, I think I'm.
Give us an example.
Well, I just said I'm not gifted in speaking.
Yes, but is that ordinary?
That was not on the list, Pam.
Yeah.
Give us something that makes you ordinary. Like, I can be a couch potato with the best of them.
I can't do that, actually.
Do you have a guilty pleasure? Mine's wine and chocolate.
Well, I will tell you, I do love chocolate. And I think COVID did this to us, but I have found myself to like Netflix a little too much.
Okay.
And we're currently on Chicago Med, and we're watching a little too much Chicago Med because it just stops and then it just plays the very next one automatically. And so you tend to just kind of sit there. So
thank you. That makes you ordinary.
I'm way ordinary.
Definition of ordinary. All right, now let's begin to think about some of your business experience and some of your business endeavors. You, right out of college, I believe, you accepted an accounting position with a manufacturing company. Is that correct?
Wow, how do you know all this stuff? Yes. Yes, I don't remember.
And after several years, you partnered with someone within the organization and decided to start your own company. Is that correct?
That is correct. So we worked for a small business in Thomasville that actually grew and was purchased by a larger organization. So then it became corporate structure, was not as much fun. But there was a small segment of the business that no one was paying attention to. And there was regulations coming, governmental regulations coming down, and I saw those regulations coming and searched. There was actually internet back then. I searched the internet, and no one was in the forefront. And it's a weird thing. It's safety vests, bright orange or lime, the shirts and vests you see police and construction guys wear. So no one was really, in the U.S. was really, now Europe, it was huge. And that's who I followed. I started following people in Europe. It was slowly coming into the U.S., but the company, I even told the company I was working for, this is going to be huge. We need to be getting ready for this. And no, we're going to do this, and this. So I was like, somebody needs to do this. I would really, because I love manufacturing. And I come from a family of entrepreneurs, so I wanted to do, it was just exciting to me to kind of want to do something like that. So anyway, I started going down this trek thinking, well, I'm just going to do it myself. But then I didn't know how to sew. I knew how to put people together and all that kind of thing, and put the parts and the materials together, but didn't know how to do the actual work. So a friend of mine worked, it's the same business, and he worked in the plant. He knew how to work the machines, he knew how to do the patterns. So we got together, and it was a very scary thing because it was a very nice job, very nice income, going from that to nothing, because we literally started from scratch, buying rolls of material, cutting out patterns just like you did when you were little and you had your little dolls and you cut out the patterns. That's how we did it to begin with. And then we grew into CAD systems and all that kind of stuff. But it was a very scary moment, but it was so exciting, a very exciting time in my life. I'd probably say, besides adopting my daughter, that's the next thing right behind it. It was that excitement. But luckily, it paid off.
As scary as it was, what pushed you over the edge to make that change?
So I wish Martha Lawson was here, because so the friend of mine that went in business with me, I was all business minded. I was ready to go. Now I wrote this really nice report. I had a business plan. I had everything. You know how you have things in your mind, but it don't always play out that way. But he wanted to. He had not taken any business classes, so he wanted to go and take some kind of business course. So we went to community college, and there was some kind of, I don't remember the name of it, but it's like starting your own business. And so we went into that class, and you know, and like I said, I already had this plan together, and I showed it to the instructor, and the instructor's like, why are you in this class? And he goes, no, he's just like, you've got all your thoughts together. Why are you in this class? And I said, well, this is my partner. And he said something about you guys are way steep over here, and you're ready to go to the deep. You're ready. You just need to swim to the deep end. And I don't know why that clicked with him, something about swimming to the deep end. He was ready to do it, and I was ready to do it. So we did it. And at that point, I just told myself, you got to try.
Yeah.
And what were we going to lose? I mean, I had a house that wasn't paid for, and I had a car that wasn't paid for, and just would have to start over if it didn't work.
Worst case scenario, we'll start over.
Just start over. So, and that's not the end of the world to start over.
No.
I think sometimes we are so afraid and that causes us not to go out and take chances, because what is the big deal if you have to start over?
Exactly. Did they feature you on Channel 8 or something one time? It seems like I remember seeing you. Okay. When you were talking about the orange vest, it's like, oh, I think I remember seeing that. All right, let me ask you this. Tanya talks in her book about too often we fall victim to our own stories, and those stories come from our upbringing, those stories come from societal norms, those stories come from the fairy tale in our head, but we get caught up in our own stories. She talked about getting caught up in her story of being a perfect mother. To her, being a perfect mother meant that you baked cakes for your daughters or for your children from scratch. Mm-hmm. And she did strawberry and lemon and chocolate, and that to her was a perfect mother. So on one occasion, it was time to make the birthday cake, and she was tired, and she had too much going on, and her heart wasn't in it. They go to the grocery and to buy the ingredients, and she sees her daughter looking at the bakery aisle, and she's looking at a cake, and jokingly she said, "Do you want a cake from the bakery?" And she said, "Could I?" And she said, "Would they write my name in cursive and put flowers on it?" And it was like, "Oh, sure, well, I want you to have whatever you want." But she walked away realizing she was caught up in her own story, and it didn't have anything to do with what a perfect mother. So I'm curious, as a woman or woman business owner, did you have any of your own stories conjured up inside what a female manufacturing business owner would be? Did you have any sort of preconceived notion or anything conjured up that you had to process through, or say, I was dead on, or that wasn't at all what I thought?
Unfortunately, well, yes and no, but the path I had taken, of course that was 20 years, we're talking 20 years ago, in that industry, it was all men. There was no women. So I didn't have that. And in my family, no one was really professional to type business. Like my mom had her own daycare and my dad had a welding shop, and it was that kind of thing. So I didn't have that to look for. So I had men as role models, but I saw myself moving into that. And in the safety industry, it was very much a men's world. It's as all industries are changing now. But I did have to break away sometimes of. I mean, there are differences between men and women, and you can't always be. You don't always fit that little peg, that little spot that a man might.
Did you have to overcome anything specifically that you can think of?
I mean, I personally just had to get used to being the only woman in.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
Almost every board I've been. I mean, not now, but then. I mean, I was always the only woman.
Right.
And
did you find yourself being hesitant to speak up?
I got over it. I did it first, but then I got over it. Right. And I think that had to do more with being younger than it had to do with being, because I'm not afraid to do things or say things. But I think because I was younger, I might have been part of it.
You know, when we think about stereotypes, when you said, I think, or we talk about the stories we have in our head, sometimes we've all talked about how as females, we're taught to be quiet and polite. And how as males, you're taught to be assertive and aggressive. And if you're in a working environment, the men can behave in a certain way, and that's great. And if the women behave in the exact certain way, it's an entirely different.
It is.
It's an entirely different story. And again, we all want to think we've overcome and we've gotten beyond those challenges, but they do still exist. And Myrna, didn't we do a thing last year about the differences in the wages for men and women? Didn't you have that? What's that difference for the dollar for dollar?
It's incredible.
We're only making, was it 33 cents?
For the same job.
For the same job.
So we do still have some of those things
You know what's really, really
that we're
sad?
fighting to overcome.
That's a very true statement, and very, very sadly, it is very present in ministry. Very,
okay.
very present in ministry.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay, so you're successful. You grow your company to over 100 employees. Is that correct? And you're successful for many years. And then you sell your company. And what was the deciding factor or the motivator to sell your company?
It was global growth, because at that point, safety vest and well, as you know, T-shirts. You know, we used to have manufacturing. Hanes used to manufacture here. Everything went to Mexico. Then it went from Mexico. It went to China. The same exact thing happened in safety vests. So we were making them here, and we still, the company still makes custom vests, but for like, I mean, it got so big. All the airlines, postal services, everybody. At that point, it became more of commodity. I mean, you can go to Walmart now and get a safety vest. But back when we started, we made the safety vest.
Right.
But so globally growing the business, that was the way strategically for us to stay in business at a level that that we wanted to be. And so we partnered with this company, and they also did gloves and helmets, ear gear, eyewear. So it was made the company a complete package. And so our part of that company was the high visibility side.
Right.
From jackets to shirts to vests.
Right. And then once you sold that company, it seems to me that you went in a totally different direction. We talk about pivots in our career and in our life, and we talk about shifts in our career and life, and it seems to me that you went in a totally different direction into food and beverage.
Yeah.
Tell us what led you down, what was the process of that journey?
So that pivot was, so when I saw the business, I was going to stay on board with the business. But then, sometimes things are not as you think they're going to be. And the people that you work with don't value the same things that you value. And sometimes when that happens, it's just best to move on and not just live in, if you can't agree. So sometimes it's just best to move on. So it was time for me to pivot. And so at the time, I was trying to do something completely different. And live in Thomasville, which is a small town, And at the time, I was like, what do I enjoy? I wanted to think of something that the town needed, the community needed, that I thought they needed anyway. And something I thought would be fun. because at the time my daughter was much younger, and she was 8. So what we like to do is desserts, and I love ice cream and yogurt and all that kind of stuff. So at the time, the big thing was Sweet Frog. So we moved into, I looked into a Sweet Frog franchise, and there was nothing like that in Thomasville. There used to be a Mayberry, and it really went downhill, and it closed, and then so there was no place to just take your any children or your parents or anywhere just to go to have a dessert. Nothing like that in Thomasville. So that's why I did that.
Did you find equal enjoyment? More or less?
At first, it was lots of fun, but it was lots of fun at first. And I did enjoy it, and I learned a lot. But I also learned, and my mind goes a mile a minute, I also learned that I am not a retail person, or that does not bring me joy. Mm-hmm. It did at first, because I love the fact that people came there, because I like people. Mm-hmm. And it was a very big community thing at first. I mean, people, it was just a way we could, even our church would come, and we'd have Sundays, we'd have people come and sing, and it was just a big community thing. But as time goes on, so that's been several years, and so, and then that kind of led into a coffee shop, which I still have the coffee shop, and that is my Market Street ministry. And I'll keep that. But I am, Sweet Frog is being purchased. It's moved to Lexington. It's being purchased by someone else. And that led into a few other restaurant things. And all of those, I am pivoting from all of those right now. Mm-hmm.
So you're in another state of pivot.
I am, and that's with my ministry. But I will tell you what I do love. What I have learned is there's a couple things I love. I love manufacturing. I love people. And I love ministry. So maybe something in those areas.
Tanya talks about having a very clear approach to what she's going to do. Clear being that it needs to connect to her North Star, it needs to link to a goal, it needs to be essential, advantageous, and it needs to be reality-based. So as you look at, what is it you look at as you're trying to determine if the next thing's a good business opportunity, or how do you identify good business opportunities? What's your process?
So it'll be different now than it was when I started. So when I started Carolina Safety Sport, there was a need. You could see globally there was a need, and particularly in the U.S. there was no leader in high visibility. But now, this point in my life, I'm looking more, probably more community aspect, because I know that brings me joy. Right. And also, I think we're trained to always think, when you come, particularly when you're right out of college and you're a little bit younger, you're thinking more of what income potential. And I'm not in that right now. Right. And it's not because I have all the money I need. That's not the case at all, because that is not the case at all. It's just that it's not important to me. It's a different season, and that's not as important to me. And to live for a purpose is what would bring me joy right now.
I've always said my personal opinion is that if one is successful in a given area or a given field, and if they leave and pivot and do something totally different and are equally successful, then that speaks of their success as a business person and their success as a business owner. And you have clearly done that twice, and we're looking for the third time. So let me ask you the last question of the night. If we're sitting here and we've got, if we want to make a change in our personal life, or we've got great ideas but don't know the first step, or we'd really like to make a change in our career, what encouragement or advice would you give to the group?
Well, I think they're doing the right thing by coming here tonight. And then, there's just a wealth within our community of women. Sometimes we just don't ask the right questions. Just getting into the, I'm sitting at a lovely table right now and learning about, I know I've known Cheryl for years, but met Lisa, and we're talking about some new things down the road, and just becoming part of a community like this and relying on that, and I just, as simple as our community college, and we have High Point University, and we have all these different things but we have to take the step to do those. And like you say, not just to listen to the book and come here, but maybe actually do some of the work.
Doing the work, I think, makes all the difference. I'd like to thank you for spending your time with us tonight. I'd like to thank you for sharing yourself, your experience, and your wisdom.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, so we are going to now get into an activity for the evening. Has anybody ever done an ideal day activity? Your ideal day. Now, we're not talking pie in the sky, okay? We're talking, like, not like if you know you could go and lay out on the beach all day. We're talking about ideal day where in your normal regular life, okay? So where you are right now if you had an ideal day. Now remember, when you're doing this activity, you've got to think about your circadian rhythm, right? So if you're not a morning person saying, I'm going to get up at 5 a.m. and I'm going to work out, I'm going to do all these things, it's probably not ideal, right? You've got to really think about who you are as a person. Me, I'm an early bird. I'm up at 5 a.m. I get my best work done in the morning, but if you call me after 6, you're probably not going to get a whole lot from me. That's just the way that I work. So just remember that when you're looking at your ideal day. And also consider like tasks that you do that someone else could help you do in this whole process. Because she talks about in the book how she kind of designates tasks to other people. And like, so for example, you know, part of my day used to be making lunch for my kids. Well, now my kids make their own lunch. And that's freed up time for me to do things that I really want to do. So the first thing you're going to do is just write down your ideal day starting from when you wake up to when you go to bed, not pie in the sky, just regular old day. And then I'm going to give you an assignment for the week once you get done, okay? All right, everybody. Did everybody get their ideal day? Does anybody want to share what their ideal day is? Like anything different or something that you're striving for? Does anybody want to share? No, nobody wants to share. Is there anything that you want to fit into your day, though, that you normally aren't able to? Maybe that's working out, or maybe that's, you know, quality time with family, or anything like some of those things. Yeah. So this is your challenge for the week. I always say Tanya, but it's Tanya says that every day is different. So we can have our ideal day, right? But tomorrow, you know, what's tomorrow? Tomorrow is Wednesday. We might have this ideal of how we want it to go, but it might not go that way. And so instead of planning our entire week where you feel like you're behind because you didn't get everything done the day before, to kind of sit down every single morning or the night before and say, this is what I'm going to do for the day. So for every day this week, wake up in the morning or do it right before bed and write down what you think your day is going to look like, planning it out. And then when you come back next week, we can look at that and see, are there pockets of time that you missed? Or did you sit there and watch, you know, Netflix for 3 hours when you could have done something that you really wanted to do? And also, you know, we have those guilt or those stories we tell ourselves. So, you know, maybe a good mom always picks her kid up from school, right? Well, maybe if you picked your kid up 3 days that week, that's enough. We don't have to look at it every single day. It could be over the entire week we realize, okay, well, we did that 3 times, you know. That's a good mom, you know, like, so we can kind of change those stories a little bit. So that is your challenge for the week.
These 4 chapters that you read this week, we're going to kind of go through them at a high level. I'm not going to read the book for you. I've already read it twice. It was fun. So chapter 5 was on clarify time, and the reason I asked the perfectionist. So Elizabeth Gilbert said, perfectionism is just fear in fancy shoes and a mink coat. I thought that I've played that I think 7 times because I am a perfectionist. I would classify myself as a perfectionist. Kind of blows my mind some days. So she said, what do you think holds you back from your best life? What do you think holds you back from your best life? She said it in the book, but what do you think holds you back? There's a key piece I'm trying to get you to say. Thank you. Time. Because we don't have enough time. That's where we lose it. We don't have enough time. There's 24 hours in a day, and we need to sleep somewhere, somehow. So we talk. How many of you would claim you're a multitasker? How many of you would say you multitask?
I was really upset when I read
Me too. It killed me. I was like, I'm that 2%. I am it. So how many of you read the statistic about the 2%? Mm-hmm. Okay. So it said multitasking, by definition, is switching rapidly between 2 or more tasks. That's multitasking. I feel like I do it way more than 2. But our brains aren't made, we're not wired to switch. We're wired to do one thing at a time. That's what we're wired to do. And so the statistic that they gave us says that it actually causes your brain to work harder and causes you to decrease in your productivity. So if you were to focus on one thing, you actually produce better than working on two or more. That hurt a lot of people's feelings, right? Yeah. Hurt mine real bad. I didn't like it.
I will tell you this, after I read that, I made the attempt. Today's Tuesday. Hey, some moments are an hour, some moments are a day, some moments are a week. I made the attempt after I read that to say, okay, when I go into the office, I'm going to do my emails X amount of time. Then, the only way that I'll be safe, I'm going to close my laptop, and I'm going to do this task for a certain amount of time, and I'm going to stay on task and not do all that. And I even said, when my phone rings, I'm going to hit silent, and then I'm going to hit silent on my cell, because my office works with my cell.
Mine too.
And I'm not going to answer calls. So I have done that this week, and I'll let you know, A, if I survive it, and B, if I get more things done. But I was so
Taking it back.
yes that I said, okay, I'm going to make
Try
this
not
change.
to.
Yeah.
So what it said that our IQ levels drop to the equivalent of somebody who skipped a night's sleep or somebody who smoked marijuana. I've never smoked marijuana, so I can't equate. I can't go there. But I could have skipped a night's sleep, and I know that it drags on me the next day. A very small number of people can actually multitask. It was less than 2%, and they're called super taskers. They actually are identified in the population, and they utilize the fact that they can multitask. I will claim I'm one of them to this day. I'm just going to tell y'all I'm it. Probably not, but you know.
The more you think you're a multitasker, the less you are there.
Yeah. But I, like Diane, have really tried to take in this book and try to find ways to shut down. Email is a big one for a lot of us, and we'll talk a little bit about how she acclaims that a little bit. How many of you do it to prove you're busy? Do you ever feel like you're multitasking just to prove you're busy? Have you ever done that? Myth number 2, you are too busy. You multitask because you just are too busy. How many of you would say that? I would. I really am just too busy sometimes. So people who work more than 50 hours a week, your productivity drops. That is a proven statistic.
That's my whole profession.
That's scary. When you focus less, you actually achieve more. Your focus time is what gives you the greatest impact. So roll that over a few times. It'll impact you even more the more you think about it. Perfectionism is rooted in the fear of failure. If you set impossible standards, it'll be impossible to reach them. So this chapter was really, really a lot about perfectionism. Focusing on your North Star. She talks a lot about North Star if y'all haven't gathered that. It's really, the beginning was setting it. Last week really talking about finding who you are and where you want to be, and then helping you get there. All right, so chapter 6, clarify energy. So Laura Vandekamp said, I don't have time, changing that to, it's not a priority. So changing that to when you tell somebody, I can specifically think of an interaction that we had recently for asking somebody to be on the board for Women in Motion, and she very eloquently gave me the sandwich technique of telling me, I'm so grateful for this opportunity, and I would love to do this, but I can't give you what you would expect of me right now, so let me do this at a later date in my life. I was like, man, that was beautiful. Can I bottle that up and recreate it? Because it was amazing. But when you tell people, I don't have time, be willing to say, this is not a priority in my life right now. Just be willing to tell people that. And explain why. And tell them, I'm grateful, thank you, but this is not my priority right now. People love checking off their to-do list. I have a trainer at First Bank that she calls it her to-do list. Whenever she writes something and marks it off, and she talks about it in the book where do you ever write something on there and then mark it off? But I have a trainer at First Bank that calls that her to-do list to make her feel like she does a little bit more. It's really great, but I love it. Well, we choose to do the little wins, so the small things. They help us achieve our North Star. So what are small wins? What are small wins on your daily sheet? What were small wins that you get to the end of the day? A priority list. So making priority lists, they're very different than making a daily list. A priority list is the same amount of time, but you're running it through a filter, and we'll talk about the filter for your priorities. It's different. So a filter for deciding importance, you use the words clear. So C is for connected to your North Star. So you decide, okay, that's how you're going to set this up. Is it connected to your North Star? That's C. L, is it linked to a goal? E, is it essential? Is it something I need to do? Do I need to do this? Is it essential? Is it advantageous to me? Or R, is it reality-based? That's so everything you put on your priority list should run through your clear filter.
But I think the hardest part of that is your mindset on being honest with yourself. I'd lie to myself about that. I'd lie to myself about that. You know, you make it what you want it to be. So that's the hardest thing I think for me to achieve.
Yeah. Urgent, or is it a priority? It's talked about the target return in the shirt. Where'd y'all put that? Where'd y'all put the target return? Did y'all put it on urgent or priority? Because it wasn't like an urgent need that had to be done right then, but it was still a priority that I needed to return it. Yeah.
Okay, so I have a question.
Uh-huh.
So I'm of the mind, this is just a thought. Things add up that we need to do, right? And they become weighty. So if we have lots of non-priority things that are piling up, it makes it hard to be clear when we're trying to focus on our work. So I think that can be a challenge, right? So if you have a lot of things to do that maybe they're not a priority, but they accumulate and they become stressful, it does make it difficult to focus on whatever is a priority. So while the system makes sense, I think that's where it is hard to discern sometimes. If I take care of this, then I'm going to be able to focus on the important stuff, because I'm going to be more clear and I'm going to be relaxed. I'm not going to have to worry about X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think that's where that urgency mindset of, let me just go ahead and take care of this so I can relax. But the problem is these things keep coming.
Yeah, they don't stop.
Right. It's hard to quell that. Yeah, like, you know, to get rid of it. So that's where I find challenging when I was reading that.
I wonder if you can block off like an hour of your day to being like, these are all the things that are not urgent, but I need to get them done. Like making a doctor's appointment, doing all the things you don't want to do, like adulting things. And like schedule that in.
I just don't want to adult.
Oh, it does, right? It sounds horrible. And I would have to do it at the beginning of the day because my mind works better. I can get things done better like at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I can just fly through things.
So one of the things she talks about, she said, if you allow it, your work will fill 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And she also said, if it's something, so ask yourself the question, does it need to be done by me? Can I outsource it?
Housekeeper, best decision of
Yeah,
2021.
me too. Did it 5 years ago.
Thank you.
For anything in the world. I told my husband I could be broke and I'm still going to pay her.
Agreed.
That's just how I feel. But can it be done by you? One of the hardest things for me, and this is something that I've come to the realization in the last 3 days, is that there's a difference between a responsible parent and a good parent. Is me deciding that I have to make my children do things and that I don't have to do everything for them. And she does talk a little bit about this. I might be ahead of myself. But she says something about, do I have to unload the dishwasher? Do I have to do the dishes? Do I have to do the laundry? Prioritizing, asking yourself that question, do I have to do this? And so that's part of it too, is being able to delegate things to other people, not just in your work life, but also in your personal life. And I think that's challenging too, as you navigate this, is figuring out, asking those questions. Do I have to do this? Can somebody else do this? Warren Buffett said the difference between successful people and really successful people is really successful people say no to almost everything. I don't say no to everything. He uses the 2 strategy list, 25 goals or tasks, and he circles the top 5. He focuses only on those and forgets the other 20. They are considered distractions until you've achieved the top 5. And so they asked him, they said, well, why does nothing else matter? And he said, because it doesn't. It doesn't matter until I get to this. So if you think about life like that, like when you're talking about, okay, all these things that I have to do, it's just not a priority right now, so it hasn't made it a corporate office. Things like that you just don't focus on because it's not important.
So now I have an answer for that. I'm not a procrastinator. It's just not a priority right now.
There you go.
And that's the thing you got to think about. Does it hurt to say that? Like, it's not a priority? Like, could you say that to a friend?
I'm talking about my spouse.
Say that to your
He's a
spouse.
friend too, but I'm accused of being a
That's
procrastinator.
hilarious.
And in my heart, I'm not a procrastinator. I get so many things done. It's just I can't get everything done in one day, or when you think it should be done. That doesn't make me a procrastinator. So now I know it's not a priority.
So chapter 7, simplify systems. So systems can very easily, in my opinion, also be processes, but she looked at it a little bit different. Decision fatigue. This was really big for me on decision fatigue. She talks a lot about eating the elephant in bite-sized pieces, and that was really, think about things and how you look at life and decisions, and you can't take this huge thing and do it all at one time, like running a marathon. Has anybody run a marathon? Did you go run it like all at one time and you decided you were going to go run a marathon, you got up the next morning and you ran it? No. You had to do it a little bit at a time, right? Yeah. You just can't. You got to train yourself to get there. And life is all about, taking things a little bit at a time. But then she talked a lot about decision fatigue. So what did y'all read about decision fatigue? Because this was huge for me, understanding how decision fatigue affects you.
So one about shopping, where I can't decide which one I want, so I'll just get both. Like, not making a decision is a part of that fatigue. And
Well, yeah, I do that all the time. I think decision fatigue too. Do you ever have a day where you're just so tired that you literally just eat whatever you can at night because you just don't want to make a decision anymore, that you're just not even making good decisions? Have you ever done that? That's decision fatigue. Your brain is just so tired that you don't need to eat 18 cookies and a bowl of ice cream and the SpaghettiOs that were in the cabinet, but man, they were there and you didn't care anymore. That's decision fatigue. It's the point in which you probably worked 60 or 70 hours that week. You're well over the 50 and your brain just couldn't process it anymore. It's decision fatigue. I think that it's a good realization to have if you are really tired and you just don't need to do something. It's a really good thing not to make really big financial decisions or things like that when you're really tired, because you're probably not going to make a good decision. So when you start looking for shortcuts, you act impulsively, you eat bad, or you do nothing because you choose to do nothing when you really should be doing something that you're supposed to be doing. And you probably just need to walk away because you know that you've just had a really rough week or a really rough day, even if your day was just really bad and you needed not to. So how taxing would it be if you had to think about every action that you do every day? If you had to think about every day when you got up, I have to put my pants on, I have to put my shirt on, I have to put my sweater on. How taxing would that be on your day all day long? We do so much of this by nature, right? Like we do it naturally. So when we're getting to the point of decision fatigue, obviously our brain feels like it's been pushed to that point to where we've had to think about everything and it's done. So it doesn't want to do it anymore. Most people have a sweet spot of about 66 days for a habit to set in. So once you start doing things by habit, 66 days is about the sweet spot if you start a new habit. Has anybody ever tried that? Has anybody ever tried to do something by habit? Run a marathon, join a gym, try a new diet. I never get to 66. I've tried, I've never gotten there. Are you running your life, or is your life running you?
Seasonal.
Who said seasonal?
I did.
What causes that?
Life. Family, work. It's seasonal. Sometimes I'm in control of what I do, but then other times there are things that have to do, period. Just, your parents, aging parents, you don't get to decide whether you do that or not. Well, some people do, but, when those kind of things happen, it's running you because you got to do it. And then you still have to do work and, so it just depends. Sometimes I'm in control, but it's seasonal for me.
So she talked about rewarding yourself in 3 things: record, reward, redirect. Those were 3 things. And she really talked about doing it in small ways. Like if you set a small goal for yourself, record what you're shooting for, reward yourself. Maybe it be, she said, play yourself a song, play your favorite song in your car. How many of you jam out to like your favorite song in the car if you just had a really good day? Me too. My kids think it's really fun too, so it's a double win for me. But reward yourself for something really good, these small goals that you're set for yourself, because you are achieving something as you go on your path. When you set these goals, reward yourself. I said, y'all, I told y'all about my trip last week that I took all by myself. I bought myself a new bracelet to remind myself that I was going to do this and I was going to get myself to this place and I wasn't going to get back there again. I was going to take good care of myself. So I bought myself a bracelet to remind myself, so I see it every single day. That's really good. That was my mental reward for myself for doing something. So one of the big things that people struggle with, especially in a professional setting, is email. And she talked a lot about that in this chapter of how she addressed email. That was a big thing for her, was that the ding of the email, the vibration, it almost haunted her when it went off all the time. So how many of you have that problem, that if the email goes off, you have to check it? Yeah, me too. I don't like the little red bubble on my phone. I don't like any of it. It drives me crazy.
Although they did just come out with, like if you have an iPhone, they have come out with Focus now. So you can turn Focus on and it will stop the dinging.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so you can set a certain amount of time, and for that amount of time, it will not ding or anything.
I need to look into that.
Downtime too, you can set downtime. Do not disturb.
I need to look into this focus thing. I do have the do not disturb thing. So she went as far as to, she basically turned it off. She turned off the sound. She turned off it on her computer. She turned it off on her phone. She did everything. She said the inbox count would mock her. She said she went into like Nancy Drew. She wanted to kill the queues. She said she set her goal to check her email 4 times a day. The excuses she gave herself made it challenging for her because she told herself concern for others. Others relied on her to check it quickly, and she said finally, she couldn't help herself. She lacked control. She admitted, I have no control over it. So she closed her email out. She turned the blips off, no vibration, no pings, no nothing. And she gifted herself 30 minutes back every single day because she felt like she was earning 30 minutes back just from not checking her email. And she said with those 30 minutes, she would take a bath, she'd go get her nails done, she'd read a fiction book, anything she told herself she did not have time to do in her past life. So she kind of gifted it back. She said, I'm giving up email. I'm going to check it 4 times, and then I'm going to do something I want for myself.
Are you going to talk about the signature line? Someone had a signature line on their email. You know how we all have a signature line, like Diane Wiggs does and such.
No, I'm not. Go ahead.
And it said, I do not check my emails after 6 or on the weekend.
Yep.
So I thought,
And it was somebody really powerful, too.
The producer.
Yeah. At Grey's Anatomy, Shonda Rhimes. Yeah.
and I thought,
And what else did it say? It said if you work for me,
Oh,
you
yes,
should put your phone down.
Yeah.
so I thought that was,
Yeah. it was a really good way. Simplify system, right? That's a she does it every day, but it was Simplify system runs really
get back in
in
bed. That was pretty cool.
Right? But she was really specifically looking at what are your systems. What are the things first thing when she brushes her teeth? She drinks 16 ounces of water. So simplify routine because she said that she was very tired schedule. So one felt like she read a lot about hydration. This chapter was sleep through the night, you deplenish all your water, and if you will drink water first thing in the morning, it will burst your body. She loves it if she can do it 3 days a week, and 4 is a bonus. So she forces herself to drink 16 ounces of water when she brushes her teeth every day.
25% of her water
Yeah, because she drinks 64 ounces every single day. I really want to try this. I haven't done it yet, but I really want to try it. And then she goes to the same place every single morning to work on her book, where her computer and her notes are sitting pre-charged because it's ready for her, and she works on her book. And then she goes and climbs back in bed with her husband 10 minutes before his alarm goes off because she said that she calls it her $1 million moments because she would give $1 million if she were to lose it tomorrow. I thought that was amazing. I was like, man, this chick's got it all together. I thought it was pretty powerful. She's planned this out. And then she really did come back to reality and say, I do it 3 days a week. We're like, okay. So it's not about managing our time. It's about savoring the moments. And she talks about her daughter running up to her in a store and how she wanted to take in that moment of her daughter because she may not always be able to run up to her in a store. One day she's going to be 16 and not want to be near her at the store. Slow down and give your priorities attention. Getting kids up 10 to 20 times, field trip forms, all the same things. She has all the same things that we all do that have children. She's not any different from the rest of us, but she just tries to manage the time a little better the best she can. She said, why was her day different? Because she took care of her first. She purposely and intentionally took care of her first before she took care of everybody else. So she said that's the only reason her day was different. She said, unhurried purpose. So that was what she said. The whole premise of that chapter, and that was my biggest notes for that chapter was it's unhurried purpose. She creates an unhurried purpose. So chapter 9, simplifying structures. Was that did I type that wrong? No, that was routine. Good. The 5 P's. So this is one of the things that's on the bottom of your calendar sheet. Number 1 is purge. Number 2 is process. Number 3 is prioritize. And number 4 is protect. And number 5 is propel. So one of the things that she did with her family was she created Team Dalton, where she talks about that she sits down with her family every single week and they create a plan for the week for her family where they know what's going on, what everybody's got on their calendar, and they talk about it as family. She said, I'm setting up my little birds to fly. That's what she said. She said, when they leave my nest, they're going to go. She said, it's a weekly kickstart. It's planned for the family. It's posted in the kitchen. She said, even when her children were young, she would use pictures and colors so they understood it before they could understand words. It's not a time to do a to-do list. It's not a time to do a daily plan. It's a time to do a weekly overview so that everybody in the family knows what's going on. She said the reason you don't do a daily or a to-do list is because some kid's going to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning with whatever, and you're going to end up taking Zyrtec the next morning yourself too. So she said, number 1, purge, was about building confidence from the small wins. Looking at a marathon, you have to start small. Small steps are better than none. Break your goals down into monthly steps and weekly tasks. Break it down very small. That's purging. Give yourself permission to prioritize toward your North Star. Limit the time you're putting toward things that are not worthy. You are the boss of your time. Nobody else is. If you don't prioritize your time, someone else will. So she talks about batching tasks. So taking tasks grouped either by action, so like similar activities like calls, emails, anything that's repetitive, anything that you would do together. Or grouped by context. So she talks about like lunches, things like that you could do all at one time. Have anybody ever taken like a ton of things and put it in your car to go return all at the same time and spent like 2 hours and just taking everything back? Yeah, I do that. So fill your calendar with priorities. A wide open calendar is free for everybody else to use. The other thing, like, have you ever blocked off your calendar and been like, my time, I'm doing this, this is mine. I do that too. So number 2 is all about setting up your dominoes. Charge your computer for the next day. So like if you're going to use it the next morning, you charge it the night before. Leaving your lunch items on the counter the night before, after you clean your kitchen for the night, then leave your lunch items out so you're ready the next morning to get your lunch ready. Leaving your backpacks ready to go. You're creating bread crumbs for the next day. Download. So she calls this the 5 minutes that she believed doubled her productivity. So minute 1, what did you accomplish today? Minute 2, evaluating your day. Did you put too much on your plate today? Minute 3, access what you did to evaluate and get closer to your goals. Minute 4, find 3 things that you are grateful for every day, but they need to be specific to that day. So you're just talking about that day only. And action 5, dominoes, what's next for tomorrow? And she's not saying create like a to-do for the next day. She's just trying to get you ready for your next day. Not go out and say, hey, I've got to do this tomorrow, but just getting your actions together for tomorrow. So that is your number 5.
Those would be great things to think out too when you're looking at your day, of saying, going through those things. And what, do you know what page that was on in the book? Chapter 9.
Audiobook is chapter 9.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And that's another way to, group things together, is to drive and to listen at the same time.